All right, so here are with Charlie Kirk as he had a debate with the college students, and then he asked that, is America a better country without religion? I believe that this is going to be a very interesting one. And then here with me in the studio is
MK,
and then we'll be checking out this video together. So guys, without any further ado, let's get down to this video and check this out.
Kirk, thank you for being out here, and I appreciate your eagerness for an open dialogue. I believe the scariest thing about your beliefs is your eagerness to have a Christian theocracy. And I think that's the scariest thing about J.D. Vance as well. Can you defend it, explain how it doesn't, or how it goes with the First Amendment, and also how it won't affect people who aren't Christian?
Well, I don't want a theocracy. I want this. I want the Constitution. So I want a free society. But I am a Christian, and we have Christian roots, and we must understand that.
Yeah. Okay, the Christian roots. First Amendment, you don't see a little
No, let's
disagreement there?
read what the First Amendment says. So what do you think the First Amendment says?
Freedom of religion, freedom of speech.
Right. So how is that an issue?
It's not. You can be a Christian in the
Yeah.
U.S., obviously. But I think what you're promoting, and you've been J.D. Vance's biggest supporter.
I'm a huge J.D.
Right,
Vance
you are a
supporter, but I'm not
huge
going to
J.D.
speak
Vance
for him.
guy.
I'll speak for myself. Fair enough?
Yes, that's
Okay,
fair.
got it. But no, what's the issue with the First Amendment?
I have no issue with the First Amendment.
No, but how
I
is
see a
that
danger.
irreconcilable with Christianity?
I see a danger with a Christian theocracy.
Well, I agree. I'm not a theocrat. I want a free society.
You support people who are Christian theocrats.
Well, it depends. I mean, I might agree with them on certain issues.
Vance is a huge Christian theocrat.
Again, I will speak for him on this. He wants what I want. He wants a restoration of a free society.
He wants a Christian society.
Well, a Christian society is different than a theocracy. Well, you'd agree. If you want the most Americans to be Christian, it's different than the composition of the government that you want, right?
I agree with that.
Yeah, so I want a revival of Christianity in this country. I want people to give their life to Jesus in huge numbers, but I want a government that is rooted in the Constitution and is a Republican, small r Republican form of government.
Fantastic. You defended that very well. I think you often correlate that Christianity to the loss of masculinity in the country. Would that be correct?
Sometimes, yeah. I think that as America has become more secular and feminine, we've become less Christian, for sure. But I think that men who understand the gospel and understand the scriptures will take ownership of their life, of their family, and then their country, for sure.
Okay,
But there's exceptions to that.
You have said that lost masculinity and also persecuting whites has been leading to Auschwitz, correct?
Well, that's not exactly what I said, but yes, I said if you single out a group based on skin color or heritage, that is how you get Auschwitz, which is quite a statement, but there's a lot of steps and sequences before you get to Auschwitz, but yes.
We don't see any dichotomy with that and being a Christian society.
Well,
That's
no.
how we get there. If you look at...
Oh, okay, so you think Nazi Germany was Christian?
I'm saying Hitler defended himself in Christian belief. He used nationalistic German ideas. He said, this is what Germany was, this is what we want Germany to return to. And that's why he rose to power. He rose democratically.
Okay. So, first of all, I'm not going to get too deep into this, but I think we should all, myself included, do a better job. Not everything is Nazi Germany. Do we agree?
Yes, you did say that.
No, I said I could do a better job of that, right?
Okay.
So there are plenty of other examples in history to point to that are not Nazi Germany, right?
Yeah.
But this idea that Adolf Hitler was some sort of like devout Christian or would use Christian symbology or imagery is very, very flawed. He was a nationalist socialist, mind you. Nazi literally means the Nationalist Socialist Workers' Party. But there were a lot of Christians and pastors that he imprisoned and killed, Dietrich Bonhoeffer being one of them. There was a lot of conscientious objectors in Nazi Germany that resisted Hitler. But the bigger issue in Nazi Germany was churches that did nothing. They didn't agree or disagree, but they were just sat idly by. And so what I say as a Christian, again, overusing the Nazi Germany comparisons, is we as Christians should not sit idly by when evil is occurring. And I think that's a lesson to take out of Nazi Germany.
That's right. Completely fair.
Cool.
But I think it goes beyond national Germany. I think a lot of nationalism has ties with religion beyond Nazi Germany. If you look at Cambodia, if you look at Turkey, if you look at Italy in the 1930s, they directly correlated religion with their nationalism.
Not always. Mao's China was explicitly atheist, right? Stalin was explicitly...
But Mao wasn't fascist.
Well, he was a murderer. He was really bad.
Yes.
Right? But again, how you define it, he wanted government control over everything. Mao was one of the greatest evils ever. Explicitly atheist. Stalin was explicitly atheist, right? So nationalism is also a very healthy thing at times too. It does not always lead to extreme horrors. Do you agree?
I think you can differentiate nationalism and patriotism.
Okay,
I think
so what-
I don't have any fears with patriotism.
What I think is nationalism, what you probably think is patriotism, so I'll grant you that. But the idea, what we're living through is inverse nationalism, where we're told that our symbols are terrible, our history is crummy.
And I don't
No, you don't like that, right?
No.
But yes, nationalism can get too far, of course. But we're not even in that arena or that ballpark.
I think we are close to that arena. I think people believe that Trump's a messiah. That's what scares me.
I don't hold that view. Jesus Christ is my Messiah.
I think people who support you hold that view, and that scares me.
I don't know if anyone here thinks Trump is a Messiah.
That allows he's equivalent himself to Jesus. Yes, he has. Yes, he has.
I've never heard that.
Yes,
I don't
he has.
believe that. Meaning, I don't believe he is that, right?
Yes.
But I think, let me ask you a question. In the current world we're in, would a nationalist movement or a globalist movement scare you more?
I believe within this country, a national movement. I'm not a globalist. I
know you're not.
I thought we should have gone out of Afghanistan. I disagree with a lot of less policies on globalism. I think for me, as not being a Christian, I'm afraid of nationalism. I'm afraid of how that leads to removing abortion rights. I believe that how that relates to only allowing immigrants who are Christian. That's my greatest fear.
Do you see and do you acknowledge that the inheritance of this great country was largely built by Christians?
The majority of the people in the country were Christians. That doesn't mean we are.
Do you think it has anything to do with why the country was great?
Oh, I'm not going to get trapped here. I'm not going to let myself
Well, it's not a trap. I'm just like,
No.
because it was a great country and most of the country was Christian, are those two things two separate data points, or is there any reason why those two things were both true?
I think there's a link, but I think there's plenty of immigrants who were not Christian. I think Jewish people, I think immigrants of all countries.
Yeah.
Just because you have the majority of Christians in the country, and America being a great country, doesn't mean that they're inextricably linked.
Let's take the Christian element out of it.
Yeah.
Let's just say the majority of the country was religious. Do you think the country was better when most of the country was religious and going to a church, a religious service, believed that there was a God, that they believed that there was something higher than them, that there was something holding them accountable? Do you think the country was better then?
Depends who you were in the country. If you were a slave, if you were an immigrant, if you're a person who wasn't Christian being persecuted,
Well,
I would say no.
1980s. We didn't have slaves in the 1980s.
No, we did not have slaves in that. Right, you're bringing up the moral majority.
Yeah, so like
Right,
the
yeah.
1980s, which objectively, there's this whole movement to bring back the 80s, right?
Yeah.
Was the country, was there anything to the point, I'm asking for a reason, when more people believed in God?
I don't think it was believing in God. I think it was we were just less polarized as a people in the 80s.
Yeah, so of course, you know my belief. My belief is that when a country becomes less religious, more secular, something fills that void, and that void right now is leftism. That void is BLM movements, the trans stuff, Democrat politics, and so you can have high opinions or low opinions of Christianity, but would you agree with Richard Dawkins, who's an atheist, that he likes Christian society?
Yeah, I think it depends what Christian society. I think a modern day Western Christian society, I don't necessarily have a problem with. I think sects of Christianity, certainly KKK, certainly FODS, I have problems with.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna find any
But-
KKK here, so. Yeah.
But those are the people, I'm saying,
Fair enough,
the
but
far Christians are voting for Trump. Far Christians are not voting for Kamala Harris.
You're coming after this from a great perspective. I don't think you're gonna believe me, but I hope I plant a seed. That you have an idea that's largely pushed by the media, that there's a bunch of like super KKK radical people that are waiting to take over the country, when in reality your average Christian's like this guy who just like wears a cross and I would imagine believes in Christianity because you have a cross? Okay, good. Not everyone does. And it's just like you know what I mean? Just like a pious person that believes there's a creator and we are not him, and wants to go to church service and is doing their best and falls short. You know, but what I'm getting at is the mechanisms of a religious society is good for everybody. When somebody walks around and thinks that you were created and that you're not God, you tend to have better citizens.
That's completely fair. And I think religion
sure.
grounds a lot of people. I'm
Yes.
saying I experienced anti-Semitism because of someone's religion in high school.
I'm sorry.
They were not pious. You say everyone's pious.
No, not everybody. I
think it's less people than you think are pious.
Okay, fair enough. And you have a life experience that has shaped your view,
Right.
and now you have.
You don't have that life experience.
No, I don't. I have the opposite perspective, and that's fair enough. Are you Jewish?
I am.
Okay.
I'm very secular about it as well.
You're welcome here in the conservative movement, for whatever it's worth. So, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, that's very interesting one, listening to Charlie Kirk and these college students debating, about religion, looking at America itself as a country that when the religion, was, should I say, when the constitution, of the people were much of Christians, was it performing, better? And then when you look at it in a sense critically based on even the explanation, you realize that when, you understand, the Christianity was dominating, you understand, the America itself, it shows that it was truly, you understand, progressing. But then just like how the story of Saul, King Saul, you understand, in the Bible, and David, when Saul sinned or went against God, when the Israelites waged a war against the Amalekite, Saul go against, you understand, God's will, because God told him, you understand, not to spare anything. But then he went on to take on the good, you understand, the ram, the spear, and all this. And when Samuel confront him and ask him of going against God, you understand, will, and then he says that the people spare, you understand, the animals, and then they brought it, you understand, to Israel, and then to the point that he even brought King Agag, you understand, to the land of Israel. When Samuel, you understand, confront him and they ask him, and then he lied. So that is when, you understand, the kingship was taken away from him. And as a result of that, since, you understand, the Spirit of God was not with him, and then what happened to him, that is when, you understand, the evil spirit, you understand, came to him. That resulted for David to play music for him for the depression years. So that shows that whatever Charlie Kirk, you understand, is explaining, you understand, is true, because America are performing better when almost everybody, you understand, is a Christian. But now that they decide to bring in, you understand, all those freedom of speech, freedom of worship, and then the First Amendment, that resulted for it to give rise to all these trans that we are all facing today. But imagine that the American dynasty was followed based on how it was founded, based on the Christian dynasty values. I don't think that some of these things, you understand, could have been happening. So it means that once a country, you understand, is less religious, then some of these problems are bound to happen. Or what do you think, you understand, concerning some of these things?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because where there's God, there's always peace, and there's always development, there's always progress, definitely, because you can't be under the canopy of God and you're not progressing. So I totally agree with him. Every society needs to believe in God in one way or the other. So except maybe you're an atheist, which is very understandable and acceptable, because no one can force you against your will and all that. But just like what Charlie Kirk said, and you also, I totally agree on that note, that everyone needs to believe in God personally, and then a country or a society that wants to grow should also put God first. And as
a matter of fact, even if we don't even look at it based on the Christian, in a certain perspective, we could look at Saudi Arabia, for instance, even though they are Muslim. But if you look at it, of course, they are very religious. Then do you see them waging any war with anybody? No. Do you see them fighting anybody? Do you hear anything like terrorist attack or anything in Saudi Arabia? No. All this drama that is happening, you understand, in the world nowadays, do you hear Saudi Arabia saying anything? But they are Muslims and they are worshiping God. And as a matter of fact, that's the place that they normally go for, the Mecca. But you see, they are progressing, they are developing. Look at Qatar, they are developing. Everything is going well, right? But you see other countries that are of less religion, those are the ones that always talk about war and all those, you understand, dramas.
And I feel like they are very organized, and the rules and the regulation in that country is being very obeyed and followed, because you can't dare and go there and say you want to promote transgender or gay or being a lesbian. You can't dare. You know you can't even go there. And you yourself, when you're going there, if you are a transgender as a person, you have to make sure you just act normal for no one to even notice it, because you know that it's not acceptable over there. And I love that about them, because they put their religious out there first, which is the Islam. And that's something I love about them, because they won't give room for issues we are having today in the society with the transgender. Someone will just wake up one morning and say he or she is this. It's very, very heartbreaking though, but what can we do? But I'm so happy that we still have countries out there that strongly believe in their religion and they stand by it.
Okay, well, that's a very interesting one, and I know that a lot of you have total opinion concerning this. I want you to drop it at the comment section, and may God bless you as you do so. So this is the end of our video. If you like our reaction, you should like, share, and subscribe. And if you have any video you want me to react to, don't forget to drop it at the comment section, and I'm going to check it out. So guys, you remain blessed, and I see you in my next video. Goodbye.